My name is Rachel Bennett, and I'm 38 years old. I'm the mother of an amazing 8-year-old daughter named Emma. Since leaving the military 6 years ago, I've built a quiet life around one simple goal: giving my little girl the peaceful childhood I never had. Very few people know where I served or what I actually did.
I prefer it that way.
My uniform is packed away in a closet, my medals stay inside a box, and the stories remain where they belong in the past. My sister married a man named Derek 3 years ago. From the beginning, he loved being the loudest person in every room. He talked about fighting, lifting weights, and winning local MMA tournaments as if they made him untouchable. Every family gathering turned into another opportunity for him to show off, while everyone else laughed along. Whenever Derek crossed the line, my in-laws brushed it off. "That's just his personality," they'd say. "He doesn't mean anything by it." Maybe they believed that. I didn't. That Saturday's barbecue started like every other family cookout. Kids chased each other through the backyard while burgers sizzled on the grill. Emma stayed close beside me, helping arrange paper plates on the picnic table. She smiled at everyone, completely unaware that adults sometimes hid their worst sides behind friendly conversations. Derek wandered over carrying a protein shake, wearing a sleeveless gym shirt that looked 2 sizes too small. He glanced at Emma before turning toward me with a smirk. "So," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "still raising your daughter by yourself? Must be exhausting pretending you don't need a real man around." Several relatives chuckled nervously. I ignored him and kept stacking plates. That only seemed to encourage him. He stepped closer, folded his arms, and smiled like he'd finally found the audience he'd been waiting for. Then he reached into his gym bag and tossed something directly at my feet. The object landed with a dull thud against the grass. A pair of black MMA gloves. Derek folded his arms and grinned as though he'd just delivered the punchline to a joke only he understood. "Go ahead," he said. "Put them on." The backyard fell strangely quiet. Even the children slowed down, sensing the mood had changed. I looked at the gloves, then back at him. "I'm not here to fight anyone, Derek." He laughed loudly enough for the neighbors to hear. "That's what I thought. You're scared." Emma moved closer and wrapped both hands around my arm. "Mom, can we just go home?" Before I could answer, Derek pointed toward me.
No.
"She doesn't get to walk away after acting like she's better than everyone. Today she learns a lesson." A few relatives exchanged uncomfortable looks, but nobody stepped between us. Instead, my mother-in-law sighed. "Rachel, maybe just apologize so we can all enjoy the afternoon." Apologize? For standing quietly beside my daughter? I didn't argue. Years of military service had taught me something far more valuable than winning arguments. Stay calm. Observe. Assess. Without moving my head, I noted every detail around me. The uneven patio stones. The grill behind Derek. The children standing several yards away. Emma safely at my left side. The distance between Derek and me. His breathing. His balance. His hands. Old habits never disappear. They simply become part of the way you see the world. Derek mistook my silence for fear. His smile grew wider. "What's wrong?" he mocked. "You think someone's coming to save you?" I met his eyes. "No." He stepped closer until only a few inches separated us. "I've been in enough fights to know exactly how this ends," he sneered. "One swing, and you'll leave here in an ambulance." Emma started crying.
"Please stop," she begged.
I gently squeezed her hand. "It's okay, sweetheart." Then Derek leaned forward, reached out, and grabbed my shoulder. That was the first mistake he couldn't take back. The instant Derek's hand tightened around my shoulder, my training took over. Not because I was angry, because someone had ignored the one boundary I never allowed anyone to cross. With one smooth movement, I turned my body just enough to break his grip. My right hand guided his wrist away, while my left gently redirected his balance. Before anyone understood what had happened, Derek was kneeling on one knee, staring at the ground with a look of complete confusion. I hadn't struck him. I hadn't twisted his arm. I hadn't caused him any pain. I'd simply removed the threat. The backyard went silent. Even the birds seemed to stop making noise. Derek looked up at me, Embarrassed, more than hurt. What was that? He demanded, quickly climbing back to his feet. I asked you not to touch me. His face turned bright red. You got lucky. Without thinking, he reached toward me again, trying to grab my wrist this time. The result was exactly the same. A small step, a calm movement, a controlled shift of balance. A second later, he stumbled backward, catching himself against the picnic table before he could fall. Plates rattled. Conversation stopped. Nobody laughed anymore. Emma stared at me with wide eyes. Mom, she whispered.
How did you do that?
I smiled at her. Practice. Derek rubbed his wrist, still shocked.
Who taught you that?
For a moment, I considered giving the simple answer I usually gave strangers. Instead, I looked around at every family member who had watched him threaten me without saying a word. I spent 14 years in special operations, I said quietly. Most of my job wasn't about fighting. It was learning how to end dangerous situations with the least amount of force possible. A few relatives blinked in disbelief. Derek laughed nervously. Yeah, right. Just then, my cousin Michael slowly lowered his phone. His expression had completely changed. I don't think she's joking, he said. Every pair of eyes turned toward him as he prepared to explain why. Michael looked around before speaking. I recognized the term she used, he said. I work with veterans through my company. Those aren't things people casually make up. The confidence drained from Derek's face. He looked at me differently now, not with fear, but with the realization that every assumption he'd made about me had been completely wrong. The backyard stayed silent. For the first time all afternoon, nobody defended him. My father-in-law cleared his throat. Rachel, why didn't you ever tell us? I glanced at Emma before answering. Because I didn't want my past to become my identity. I came home to build a peaceful life, not to impress anyone. My mother-in-law lowered her eyes. We should have stopped this before it got this far. Several relatives quietly nodded. One by one, they admitted they'd ignored Derek's behavior for years because confronting him always seemed harder than staying silent. Derek finally took a slow breath. I crossed the line, he admitted. I thought you were too scared to stand up for yourself. I shook my head. Being calm isn't weakness. Real strength is having the ability to hurt someone and choosing not to. Nobody argued. Emma slipped her hand into mine and smiled with quiet pride. That meant more to me than proving anything ever could. Derek looked down before speaking again. I'm sorry, Rachel. And I'm sorry, Emma. Neither of you deserved what I said today. I accepted the apology with a small nod. But everyone could see I still hadn't answered the one question silently hanging over the entire family gathering that I looked at Derek for a long moment before answering. I accept your apology, I said. But accepting it doesn't erase what happened. Respect has to be earned again. He nodded without arguing. Then I turned toward the rest of the family. I want something to be clear. If anyone ever threatens me or my daughter again, we won't stay and hope things get better. We'll leave. Peace isn't something I'm willing to compromise anymore. No one objected. Derek quietly admitted he'd let his pride control him for too long and promised to get help managing his temper. Whether he followed through was his responsibility, not mine. As Emma and I drove home that evening, she looked out the window before asking the question I knew was coming. Mom, why didn't you ever tell people you were special ops? I smiled. Because real confidence doesn't need an introduction. The strongest people don't spend their lives proving they're strong. She thought about that for a moment before reaching over and squeezing my hand. I want to be like you someday. I squeezed her hand back. Be even better. Use your strength to protect people, stay kind when it's hardest, and never let someone else's anger decide who you become.